No one gets to choose where they're born. That boy Nam came into the world to the sound of mourning. His parents died in a tragic accident, leaving him all alone. Growing up in an orphanage, he often felt like an extra piece in life's puzzle, someone the world had forgotten. But from the depths of that loss began something extraordinary, the journey of a young man who chose to rewrite his own destiny. From a young age, Nam understood what it meant to go without not just food or shelter, but love. While other children were chosen by warm, welcoming families, he was always the one left behind. No one picked him. With a face that rarely smiled and eyes that stayed fixed on the ground, as if afraid to meet the world's gaze, Nam learned early on that staying silent was a way to survive. He grew up carrying a quiet crack in his heart, a constant ache he never spoke of. Questions haunted him over and over. Why doesn't anyone want me? Did I do something wrong? Is there even a place for me in this world? The day he left the orphanage, a place that had never really felt like home, he had nothing but an old backpack and a worn-out ID paper. No family. No relatives. No direction. Saigon, with all its dazzling lights, rose before him like a maze, bright but cold. Every day was a struggle to survive, job hunting, getting rejected, sleeping in parks, going hungry, being scammed, looked down on. No one knew his name. No one cared who he was. In the rush of the crowd, Nam was just his shadow. And at times, he wished he could disappear completely, just to stop seeing the invisible version of himself reflected in the world's indifferent eyes. But from that very bottom, something quietly began to grow, an unnoticed seed of hope, the first stirrings of a dream. But it was from that very darkness that the first seed of hope quietly began to grow. After days of wandering the streets trying to survive, Nam landed a job as a helper at a small, no-frills rice diner. The work was hard, the pay was low, but at least he had a place to sleep and a hot meal at the end of the day. Every spare coin he earned, he saved, never wasting a cent. It was his way of protecting himself from life's next unexpected blow. By day, he worked. At night, he'd sneak into a nearby public library, a place with air conditioning, silence, and most importantly, no entry fee. At first, it was just shelter from the heat. But then, his eyes were drawn to the towering shelves, to the words on the pages that didn't care if he was poor, didn't ask where he came from. He started reading books on life skills, novels, even old college textbooks. Knowledge intoxicated him. For the first time in his life, Nam felt like a door had opened to another world, one without judgment or pity, only a simple choice, learn or don't. It was there that Nam met Mr. Tom, the elderly librarian with few words and kind eyes. He had noticed the quiet young man who sat reading for hours without complaint. One day, Mr. Tom walked over and gently placed a book on Nam's table, Fast-Track Math for Beginners. A small gesture, but to Nam, it felt like a quiet acknowledgement, you can start over. From then on, Mr. Tom became Nam's first unofficial teacher. He taught him how to study, how to set goals, and most importantly, how to believe in himself. With Mr. Tom's quiet guidance, Nam enrolled in night school, worked toward earning his high school diploma, and began preparing for the university entrance exams. No one had ever believed he could do it. But Nam did. And so began his first real journey, to take back the one thing fate had once stolen from him, his future. Nam believed, and he kept moving. Slowly, maybe, but he never stopped. He worked during the day, studied at night, and met with Mr. Tom on weekends to go over lessons and exchange books. Every small step forward felt like a quiet victory over the fate he was handed. Mr. Tom became his only emotional anchor, not related by blood, but patient and steadfast enough to light a spark of hope in a heart that had known nothing but hurt. Then, fate struck again. One rainy afternoon, Nam arrived at the library like always, only to be told that Mr. Tom had passed away from a sudden stroke. No goodbye. No chance to say thank you. Just an empty chair and an old notepad left behind. On it, a few final words written in Mr. Tom's careful hand. Don't stop halfway. You're on the right path. Fate isn't about where we begin. It's about where we decide to go. Nam sat there for hours, gripping the note, his throat tight, unable to speak. It felt like he was back at the starting line, losing, once again, the only person who believed in him. This time, the grief didn't scream, it sank deep and silent, like a crack spreading through stone. He stopped studying, skipped the library, left his books untouched. Everything seemed pointless without the one person who had walked beside him. But in the long, sleepless nights that followed, he kept seeing Mr. Tom's face, those gentle eyes, that calm voice, and most of all, the quiet faith he had placed in Nam. And that's when it hit him. If he gave up now, everything Mr. Tom had planted in him would be lost. He had to keep going, not just for himself, but for the unfinished dream of his old teacher. That was the moment Nam woke up. No one was going to pull him out of the darkness except him. He no longer studied just to escape his past, he studied because he wanted to own his future. With deep gratitude and a heart forged by loss, Nam returned to his path this time, with a fire burning from within. With the fire ignited by his awakening, Nam returned to his studies with a seriousness and discipline he'd never known before. Gone were the days of doubt and hesitation, the lingering question of is it even worth it? Now, Nam knew exactly what he was doing and why. He didn't study to prove anything to anyone else, he studied to honor Mr. Tom's belief in him. And more than that, to stay true to himself. 3 years later, Nam passed the entrance exam and was accepted into a university to study information technology, a near miracle for a once orphaned boy who hadn't even finished high school. He worked part-time jobs to pay his own way, refusing to rely on anyone. Life was still hard, but now, Nam didn't feel lost. He had a purpose, a direction, and a legacy to follow. After graduation, he landed a job at a small software company. The salary was steady, and slowly, life began to shift into something more stable. But instead of settling for comfort, Nam quietly began planning something else. One day, he returned to the place where he'd grown up, the orphanage that had once been both his beginning and his burden. The scene hadn't changed much, damp walls, rusted metal beds, young eyes full of silent longing for something or someone to believe in. Nam stood still. The past came rushing back, but this time it wasn't filled with bitterness. It was gratitude. Because it was this very place, cruel as it had been, that had forged him into who he was. Nam started a free class for the kids at the orphanage. He taught them more than school subjects, he taught them how to dream, how to get back up when life knocks them down. He didn't speak much about his own story. He didn't need to. His presence, steady, kind, real, was enough. In his quiet way, he answered the unspoken questions in the hearts of children who were once just like him. Nam had come home. But this time, he brought the light with him. Nam had come home. But this time, he brought the light. The small classroom tucked within the orphanage grounds began to fill up. The children, once withdrawn, silent, slowly started to laugh, to ask questions, to dream. For Nam, it was never just about teaching facts or lessons. It was about planting seeds of hope. In their eyes, he saw the same hunger he once carried. And he knew, if someone just walked with them, they wouldn't have to grow up in the dark the way he did. Outside of his full-time job, Nam poured his energy into building a community education project. He began connecting college students, retired teachers, and volunteers to offer free classes to orphans, street children, and illiterate adults. It all began with that first class, where a quiet orphan once sat, catching every falling word like the first glimmers of light breaking through the night. Nam never sought fame. He didn't appear in interviews or on social media. But his story, the boy who rose from nothing, started to spread, whispered through classrooms, forums, and volunteer groups. People admired his grit, yes, but more than that, they recognized a simple truth in him. Fate isn't something we're given. It's something we write with our own hands. Nam lived simply. He still rented a modest room near the school, still rode the same old motorbike, still ate humble meals at roadside diners. But inside him was a different world, one filled with peace, clarity, and love. He was no longer the abandoned boy from years ago, but a teacher, a guide, a light for others walking through the same darkness he once knew too well. And Nam kept living, not just to survive, but to bring light into the lives of others. Each day, he wrote another line in the story of healing. A story that didn't begin with luck, but with loss. And was saved, entirely, by courage. Nam no longer lived to outrun his past, he lived to turn it into a flame that lit the way forward. From a child once abandoned, he had become someone who sparked hope in those who had lost their way. No miracle brought Nam to where he was, only grit, gratitude, and the choice to keep going when everything seemed lost. Nam's story isn't a fairy tale. It's real, and it could be yours, too. No matter where you were born, no matter how many scars you carry, you still have the right to choose a new direction for your life. Fate isn't pre-written. It's rewritten day by day, with your own hands, with your courage, and with the kindness you offer to others. So if today you feel small, invisible, or lost, please remember this. Even in the darkest night, a single spark is enough to begin. And maybe, just maybe, you are that spark. For yourself. And for someone out there, still waiting for a reason to believe.